They called me a useless bum. At 3 a.m., my 2-year-old was crying in that huge silent mansion, and my wife, the billionaire CEO, sent me a message, sign the papers. It's all decided, but she forgot one thing. I was the one who built her empire's brain, and this time I wasn't walking away quietly. At 3:07 a.m., the house was so quiet that the refrigerator hum sounded like a plane. The kind of quiet you only hear in big empty places, high ceilings, cold stone glass that remembers every fingerprint. Then Leo cried. Not a loud cry, he was 2, the age where the cry is more like a hiccup that breaks your chest from the inside. I padded down the hallway in socks past the framed magazine covers with Eleanor's smile. Ethel's visionary CEO, the woman who saw around corners. Billionaire teeth, perfect eyes, arms crossed like the world owed her an answer. Leo's room smelled like baby shampoo and milk. He stood in his crib cheeks, damp hair sticking up like a dandelion. I lifted him, felt the warm weight of him lean into my shoulder, and the world made sense again. I rocked him in the dark window, showing the black outline of the pines and the blinking red light of the security camera at the gate. My phone buzzed. I looked because at that hour it's almost always trouble. The message filled the screen like a slap. Sign the settlement papers on the table, you useless bum. It's all decided. Attached was a photo. Eleanor in a low modern bar I recognized from downtown. She had a champagne flute and was tilted toward Brent Harrison, the rival CEO we used to joke about at dinner. His hand was on her knee. Her smile in the picture wasn't for me. Leo's breath was warm against my neck. I put the phone face down on the rocking chair arm and just held my son. It's okay, I whispered. I've got you. But I said it to myself too. People in our circle called me a stay-at-home dad like it was a charity case. They forgot I used to be David Sterling, the one who wrote code the way other people wrote music. Before Leo came, I had led engineering teams shipped products that paid for these glass walls. Then we got the miracle at 53. Our boy and I made a choice. Eleanor had the kind of rocket you don't step off. Ethel, investors, board meetings at midnight. I had already done my bragging years, so I stayed home and I didn't keep score. I also didn't keep my name on things. Ethel's main moneymaker was the core algorithm, the secret sauce that let our devices talk to each other faster and safer than anyone else. The patent listed Eleanor and Ethel Labs. The press said she was the one who dreamed in code. The truth lived where truth often lives, in small places. In a private repo with my initials buried in the version history, in emails where I explained the trick to her step by step. In a notebook with coffee stains and a line at the top, proof is a gift to your future self. When Leo's breathing slowed, I set him back in the crib and smoothed his blanket. In the kitchen, the settlement papers sat on the marble island, neat as a hospital bed. I didn't touch them. I brewed coffee for my hands to do something and watched the steam twist in the under-cabinet light. Ethel's vision, Eleanor's empire. Brent's hand, useless bum. Powerful words when they come from someone who knows where you are soft. I let them burn through me and leave clean metal behind. I opened a new note on my phone and typed only call Harper. 8 a.m. Then I put the phone face down again and watched the steam fade. And in that quiet, in that huge house, I started my plan without saying a word. At 8:00 a.m. on the dot, a calm voice answered Harper Chen. I need a divorce lawyer for a big case, I said, and for an invention someone is trying to steal. I'm that kind of lawyer, she said. Who is the someone? My wife, Eleanor Sterling. There was a pause, the kind you hear when a person sits up straighter. Come in, now. Harper's office was in a converted warehouse with polished concrete floors and plants that looked like they were actually loved. She wore no wedding ring and had a stack of color tab binders on her desk like a skyline. She listened, really listened. When I told her about Leo, she uncrossed her arms. When I told her about the text, she didn't flinch. When I told her I had been the one to invent the core of Ethel's system, her only question was, where's your proof? In pieces, I said. Old commits, emails, a notebook, and something inside the code itself that only I would know to look for. Good, she said. You will gather all of it, today. She pulled out a legal pad and wrote 3 terms like a teacher on a whiteboard. First, she said, tapping the page, shared marriage money. People call it community property in some states. Simple version, money earned and things made during the marriage are owned by both spouses. Not just the cash today, but the value of the thing you created if you made it during the marriage. Ethel's value rides on your core algorithm. That matters. Second, fiduciary duty. That's a big phrase that means you must act like a guardian. As a CEO, Eleanor promised to act in the company's best interest, not just her own. If she hides the real value of the company to cheat you, that also cheats the company and shareholders. That's very serious. Third, spoliation, destroying or tricking with evidence. If anyone is deleting files, moving money, or lying under oath, judges don't like that. The penalties are ugly. She looked up. You are not a victim. You are a founder who stepped back for his family. We will remind everyone of that. I nodded and I felt like someone turned on a light inside my chest. Step 1, she said, sliding me a checklist. We secure your digital history. Use a fresh laptop. No home Wi-Fi. I'll have our forensic guy mirror your old drives and pull the version control logs. Email the important exchanges to a new secure account I'll give you. Take photos of the notebook pages with timestamps. Keep the originals in a fireproof bag. Step 2, we put Eleanor on notice. Today I'll send a litigation hold letter to Ethel and to Eleanor's counsel. That's a formal warning. Do not delete or alter anything related to the algorithm valuation or personal communications about the company. If they ignore it, it's on them. Step 3, we file for temporary orders. She saw my face and translated. That means we ask the court right away for rules to keep things fair while the case is happening. You are the primary parent. We want a schedule that keeps Leo safe and stable. We also want access to company info so the money part is honest. Will she freak out? I asked. She will, Harper said almost kindly. Bullies do when someone calls the hall monitor. I spent the rest of the day in motion. I drove to my old storage unit, where I kept the relics of my other life binders labeled AES ZMesh Low Latency Comms. I found the leather notebook with its torn first page and the faint outline of the word proof. In my inbox archive, I searched for a date and saw the thread. From David Sterling to Eleanor subject, the trick with the bit mask. If you pair devices with a rolling one-time pad seated by ambient noise, you'll get speed without the handshake penalty. Use the microphone hiss. It's like a free random number. We can patent the method. I'll draft the claim language. There were dozens like it. My words, her replies short and sweet. You're brilliant. I'll route to legal, followed by press releases in her name. At Harper's direction, I uploaded everything to a separate secure drive that her forensic expert, a quiet man named Koji, now controlled. Metadata matters, he said. Dates tell stories. By late afternoon, Harper had already filed our petition. Her paralegal, a woman with a mother's tone, guided me through the temporary orders request. Say you've been primary caregiver since birth, she said. List routines. Naps at 1 p.m. Allergy to Strawberry's bedtime books. Law, I realized, was also a form of caregiving when it was done right. Eleanor didn't come home that night. She sent a text at 11:12 p.m. You're making a mistake. No photo this time. The next morning, Harper's letter hit Ethel like a small, controlled explosion. By noon, I had a curt message from Eleanor's new lawyer. We've received your notice. Your client's claims are absurd. Mrs. Sterling is the sole inventor. He is a dependent, not a partner. Harper replied on my behalf in words that tasted like steel preserve all documents, all repos, all valuation models, and tell your client that lying in court isn't just rude. If our life had been a private movie now, it became a trailer on every screen. The first shot was a blog post, Ethel CEO files for divorce, husband unemployed. A photo of Eleanor on stage backlit, a single line about me. Mr. Sterling stepped back from his career to focus on family. I didn't read the comments. The few that slipped past my guard were knives, must be nice to live off her. Gold digger. I put my head down and made breakfast the way I had every morning of Leo's life. He smacked his spoon on the high chair and yelled more at banana slices. Routine is stronger than gossip. Eleanor played a different game. She pushed for full custody using the public line I was unstable and unemployed. She offered me generous visitation like handing a man crumbs off his own plate. Her lawyers filed a motion saying Ethel's value had softened due to market forces and that the core algorithm was just one of many assets not that important. Harper read the filing and raised an eyebrow. Interesting timing, she said. A downturn exactly when we asked for the numbers. She wrote our next move in large letters on her legal pad subpoenas. Plain English, I asked. Court orders, she said. We legally demand documents and testimony, not just from Eleanor, but from Ethel's board, the valuation firm, the auditors, and Brent Harrison's company. We ask for emails, Slack messages, code logs, investor decks, side agreements, anything related to valuation in the algorithm. If they don't hand it over, the court can compel them. If they still refuse, the judge can punish them. I worried about blowback. Won't she call me vindictive? She already has, Harper said. We aren't being loud, we're being exact. The subpoenas went out like arrows wrapped in paper. The first responses came back with heavy black boxes over the good parts redactions. Harper smiled like a chess player with a forked queen. Cute. We'll ask the judge to review unredacted copies. Judges don't enjoy games. Meanwhile, Koji pulled a rabbit from my old hat, the version control history, from the private repository we had used in the early days. He reconstructed a timeline. See here, he said, pointing to the screen. This commit has your unique GPG signature. The content matches the core of the production algorithm. The date is before the patent filing, and it's within the marriage window. The IP intellectual property was developed during the marriage. Under shared marriage money, the value belongs to both of you. What about them making the company look cheap, I asked. Undervaluation, Harper said. If Eleanor knowingly told the world one value and the court another to cheat you, that's fraud. If she pressured accountants to play along, that's worse. And if Brent is involved, there may be tortious interference. That's a fancy term for another business messing with your rights. I tucked Leo in for his nap and sat outside his door, listening to him breathe, and the dry click of the sprinkler system in the garden. I thought of Eleanor when we were young, coding in our first apartment pizza boxes and whiteboards. I had loved her ambition then. I loved how she could walk into a room and own it. But something happens when the room becomes the only thing you can see. You forget the person who made the room possible. The court date for temporary orders came. We walked into family court with our binders and our hope. Eleanor sat across the aisle, expensive suit hair like a helmet, Brent a ghost at the back watching. The judge asked simple questions in a tired voice. Who takes the child to the doctor? Who bathes him? Who buys the food? It was like counting grains of rice. Eleanor's lawyer tried to paint me as incompetent. Harper stood and fed the judge facts like Clean Stone's pediatrician, records with my signature, receipts, photos, a schedule chart with Leo's nap times and words like strawberry allergy and friendly handwriting. The judge looked to Eleanor. Mrs. Sterling, any reason the current childcare arrangement should change while we sort this out? Eleanor shifted. He's unemployed, she said, as if that answered every question. The judge sighed. Being a full-time parent is work. Temporary custody remains with Mr. Sterling. You'll have a standard schedule for now. That night I read Leo Goodnight Moon 3 times, and each time the quiet old lady whispering hush sounded like Harper. But the big fight was still ahead. The subpoenas did their work. Ethel's director of finance, a clean-eyed man named Ruiz, sent a letter through his lawyer he would cooperate. I have a duty to the company, he said, and to the truth. The pile of documents that arrived filled 12 bankers' boxes. Koji and Harper's team worked like a small army. Late one night, Koji sent me a message with a screenshot of Slack messages between Eleanor and Brent. Eleanor, if we close the licensing side agreement after the valuation report, it doesn't hit this quarter. Brent clean. Eleanor, he'll get less. Then we roll it forward next quarter and no one's the wiser. I stared so long my eyes watered. I printed the page and put it with the notebook under the fireproof bag as if it could burn a hole in the floor. Harper's last note before the deposition was simple. We don't have to shout, we just have to show. Depositions are strange rooms. Fluorescent light, pitcher of water with sweating cups, a court reporter with quiet hands. No judge but truth sits in the corner like a chaperone. Everyone is sworn in. Every word is taken down. It looks small, and it is not. Eleanor arrived with 2 lawyers in a posture that said the chair would not dare be uncomfortable. Brent didn't come. His deposition was scheduled for the next day. Harper and I sat together. She touched my sleeve once, a human signal in a room designed to feel like a machine. The court reporter administered the oath. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? I do, Eleanor said, bored. Harper began softly. Mrs. Sterling, state your role at Ethel. I'm the chief executive officer and co-founder. Did you develop the core algorithm that underlies Ethel's primary product line? Yes, she said, that was me. And your husband? David is a caregiver, she said, and the way she said caregiver made it sound like mailman said by someone who never licked a stamp. Harper did not change expression. Please look at Exhibit 14, she said, a printed email chain. On March 6th at 11:42 p.m., your husband wrote to you explaining the ambient noise seed technique, detailing how a rolling one-time pad could reduce handshake lag while increasing security. Do you see that? Eleanor glanced. People send ideas all the time. Exhibit 21, Harper said, your reply. You're brilliant. I'll route to legal. That's your email. Eleanor shrugged. Looks like it. Exhibit 37, Harper continued, sliding another page. Slack messages with Mr. Harrison, discussing delaying a licensing deal to depress valuation before a divorce. Do you see the line? He'll get less. Eleanor's lawyer objected to the form, to the tone, to the weather. Harper waited each objection out, then asked again. Do you see it? I see a joke, Eleanor said, smiling a lawyer's smile she learned somewhere. Exhibit 52, Harper said, and her voice changed for the first time, warmer, almost sad. Printed excerpts from the Ethel source code repository. Please turn to page 312. She waited. Do you see the function labeled AERES, pair, seed? I'm not here to read code, Eleanor said. You're here to tell the truth, Harper said, still gentle. Look at line 129. Read the comment aloud. Eleanor's jaw moved. She read flat, mark entropy use room noise floor, 90B as RNG seed, DJS. Thank you, Harper said. What does RNG mean? Random number generator, Eleanor said crisp. And DJS? Eleanor didn't answer. Harper looked at the court reporter. Please mark that the witness has not answered. Eleanor's lawyer leaned in. My client is not required to guess. Harper nodded. We don't need guesses. She slid over a laminated sheet Koji had made with a dignity that made my throat tight. It showed a side-by-side of early private commits and the production code. Mr. Sterling's GPG signature appears on the comment introducing AORES pair seed, she said. The comment includes his initials, DJS, David James Sterling. The code uses his ambient noise seed method described in Exhibit 14. The patent application describes the method almost verbatim. All of this occurred during the marriage. She let that sit, then continued, still soft. Mrs. Sterling, did you tell investors that you were the sole creator of the core algorithm? Yes, Eleanor said brittle. I led the company. Did you tell the court in your sworn statement that the core algorithm was not central to the company's value? My lawyer's prepared. It's a yes or no. Yes. Did you tell Mr. Harrison you would delay a licensing deal so your husband would get less? Eleanor's mouth opened and closed. We strategized. Is that a yes? She looked at her lawyer, then at the pitcher of water, then back at me for the first time all day. Something flickered across her face that looked almost like anger at herself. Yes, she said. Harper rested her hands on the table. You understand that as CEO, you have a fiduciary duty to act in the company's best interest, not to hide value for personal gain. Yes, Eleanor whispered. And you understand that lying under oath is perjury and misleading investors in courts about valuation is fraud. Eleanor didn't answer. Her lawyer called for a break like a man grabbing a fire alarm. In the hallway, I leaned against the wall. My knees felt like wood. Harper stood beside me, gave me a look that said, breathe. Through the glass door, I watched Eleanor and her team whisper hard phones, out posture broken. When we went back in, everything was different. Eleanor spoke in half sentences, her lawyers objected less and wrote more notes. Harper asked fewer questions. She didn't need more. Truth, when it finally shows up, does all the talking. By the end, Eleanor's counsel asked for a private caucus lawyer code for we need to make a deal before this gets worse. Harper agreed to hear them after Brent's deposition the next day. We walked out into a gray afternoon that smelled like wet concrete. I buckled Leo into his car seat outside his grandmother's place and kissed his forehead until he pushed me away giggling. Stop, Daddy. The world had edges again. That night, Eleanor sent me a message with no words, just a period. It said more than the first text ever did. We met in a conference room with a view of the bay. Eleanor's side brought 5 people and a stack of paper bound with red tape. Harper brought 2 and a fountain pen. Brent's deposition that morning had been a slow mercy. He tried to be clever and wasn't. He said, I don't recall so many times the court reporter asked him to speak up. Koji's Slack screenshots did the remembering for him. Eleanor looked smaller. Not in height and story. The story had been stripped of its polish and left with only facts. She kept her chin up because she didn't know how not to, but her eyes were tired. For a moment watching her, I remembered the apartment with the pizza boxes. People are complicated. I don't say that to excuse her. I say it because it's true. Her lead lawyer spoke. Mrs. Sterling is prepared to resolve this matter with confidentiality to protect the company and the family. Our proposal is as follows. He pushed the paper across the table. Harper read. She didn't blink. No, she said, and pushed it back. Then she slid across a sheet with our terms written in clear lines like instructions on a machine. 50% of the marital value of Ethel calculated with proper disclosure, including the delayed licensing deal, she said, a lump sum to equalize after taxes, transfer of certain shares to Mr. Sterling, with voting rights to ensure further transparency. Primary custody with Mr. Sterling with a parenting plan that's generous but realistic given Mrs. Sterling's travel. A written admission of contribution to the core algorithm, no press release, but a letter for our records, and attorney's fees. Eleanor's lawyer laughed once the sound of a man pretending he hadn't just watched his case crumble yesterday. You're dreaming. Harper tapped the stack of exhibits with a fingernail, a small polite drum. The dream, she said, was thinking a court would swallow perjury and fraud. If we go forward, we move to remove Mrs. Sterling as CEO for breach of fiduciary duty. We report to the SEC and shareholders, and we seek punitive damages. We also file a patent correction with evidence of inventorship. We're here because my client would like to protect Leo from a public brawl. Don't mistake that for weakness. Silence lay down on the table between us. Outside, a ferry cut across the water like a white seam. Finally, Eleanor's lawyer asked for the room. They left. They came back. Papers changed hands. Numbers rose like a tide. By late afternoon, we had an agreement in principle. It was enormous. It wouldn't make the news because it was locked behind confidentiality, but in our quiet world, it was the sound of chains falling. When the lawyers stepped out to draft the final language, Eleanor lingered. For the first time since that 3 a.m. text, we were alone. You could have just signed, she said, not angry, almost curious. I could have, I said, but Leo will grow up and ask me who I was. I wanted a good answer. She looked down. I told myself you didn't care about the company anymore. I cared enough to build the part you liked best, I said, and it didn't come out cruel. It came out like weather. She nodded once. I'm sorry, she said, not looking at me. For the text. She didn't finish. I hope you run the company well, I said. For the people who work there. For Leo to be proud of his mom. She swallowed. You're getting primary custody. I know that's right. He needs your steadiness. She laughed without humor. I'm good at rockets, David, not landings. We'll make a good flight plan, I said, because it felt kinder than saying goodbye. The court entered our settlement as an order a week later. My share transferred. The parenting plan filed. The patent paperwork began its slow, honest march. Brent resigned to pursue other opportunities. Ethel's board announced a special committee on governance. The world spun on. On a sunny Saturday that smelled like cut grass, I sat at the kitchen table of our smaller, warmer house and drafted the first lines of a new company's charter. It wouldn't be a rocket. It would be a craft. We would build tools that made communication safer for small clinics and schools, the places no one courts with steak dinners. Clear contracts, fair profit sharing, no secrets in the code except the ones that protect your privacy. Leo toddled in with a cardboard crown from daycare. Daddy had, he said, and put it on my head at a crooked angle. I made a serious face like a king considering a decree. He giggled so hard he fell over. On my phone, I had kept the first text like a museum keeps an artifact of a war. Sometimes I read it to remind myself how far anger can reach. That afternoon, while Leo napped and sunlight made warm squares on the floor, I opened it one last time. Sign the settlement papers on the table, you useless bum. It's all decided. I thought of that room at 3:07 a.m., the tiny cry that turned my heart toward the right fight and the proof I had left for my future self like breadcrumbs. I thought of how revenge, the way we imagine it, is a hot flash that leaves you empty, and how justice, the quiet kind, is a long, steady flame that leaves you with light. I hit delete. Not because I forgave the words, but because they no longer name me. In the weeks that followed, our days found a rhythm. Breakfast with sticky hands, walks by the water where fairies stitch the bay, code written during naps, investors good ones who liked the idea of products with ethics, a logo drawn by a friend's kid that made everyone smile, a team that cared more about what we built than what we bragged. One afternoon, a package arrived with no return address. Inside was a small wooden box. In it, a fountain pen and a note on thick paper, "For your new beginning. H." I sat at the table crown, still on the shelf, and wrote the company's name with the pen. The letters looked like they meant it. Later, I picked up Leo from daycare. He ran to me across the yard, arms out, hair wild, cheeks apple red. I lifted him high until he squealed. The teachers waved. The sun slid down the glass buildings and turned them to gold for a minute. Nice trick, I thought. Pretty, but not the point. The point was the warm weight in my arms and the man holding him steady. People will underestimate you if you let them write your labels. They will call you unemployed, dependent, useless. They will underestimate love too, and the way it teaches you to fight without becoming what you're fighting. The hard part is not shouting. The hard part is showing. At bedtime, Leo wanted Goodnight Moon again. He always paused at the line about the quiet old lady whispering hush, and I always did the voice, and we both laughed. When he fell asleep, I stood in the doorway and watched his chest rise and fall, and I said a simple prayer I learned from my grandmother, "Thank you for enough." Then I went to my desk and opened a new file. I named it seed.c because some jokes you keep for yourself. I typed the first lines of code for a communication tool I wish we had when we were young and honest before rooms got too big. I added a comment at the top in plain words Leo might one day read. Hunting built with love during the years that mattered most. Outside, Seattle blinked and hummed. Inside, justice didn't shout. It just did its work steady as a heartbeat while a father promised his son what the world had nearly made him forget: we are not what they call us. We are what we build and who we hold.